very much detail, and any detail and all detail that's in it will be on your live binder. So please don't feel like you have to hurry and take notes on some of the references and things that I give, because this will all be on your live binder. Tricia did a wonderful introduction. I'm not sure I have to introduce myself anymore, except that it has been more than 40 years. I won't say how many more, but it's more than 40 years that I've been teaching. And in that time, it was easy to discover that visually impaired kids are wonderful. So for the parents who are here, you're on a wonderful adventure with your kids. And for the professionals who are here, stick with it, because with time comes all kinds of experience and wisdom and joy. So I'm an example of that. As you can see, I did sort of officially retire a while ago, but I still have a Braille student every week, and I am doing that mentoring. So, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be doing it. Former boss of mine, I did work for 9 years at a Center for Deaf Blind, and she always said that if you kept repeating something, that it would sink in. And the thing that I'm going to be repeating is that Braille is not scary. So please don't be afraid of the information I'm giving, because it's kind of a lot. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. It's really fun. I see it as a code, not another language. And when I teach it to my kids, I call it a secret code, which makes it even more exciting. So, and note to the teachers who are here and the parents and the paraprofessionals is that you can use your eyes for Braille. You don't have to learn it by touch. So that makes it much easier for you. And I will refer to this often too, there are cheat sheets. So if you don't remember a letter or a word or anything else, you can look on your cheat sheet. So no pressure here. So to begin, we do need the bubble sheet that Tricia sent along to you, and a pen for that. And if you have the Papa Cell, it might be fun to refer to it, and the Braille bookmark, but neither of those are necessary. Don't hurry off to get them if you don't have them. Okay, so this is the man, Louis Braille, who started all of this, and he was kind of an incredible guy. I read a couple books about him recently just so I could tell you, and I'm probably going to say too much because there's so many interesting facts about him. But he was blinded at the age of 3, and that didn't stop him from being very curious and wanting to read and wanting to write. And he tried going to a local school, and there was just so much he could memorize, and he couldn't read any books, and he couldn't write any answers. So he lived about 25 miles from Paris, in a little country village called Couvray. And they did take him to Paris, and he attended the Royal Institute for Blind Youth in Paris. And that sounds really good, but apparently the building was tumbled down enough that it got very damp, and many of the kids had coughs, and their coughs turned into tuberculosis, which is actually how Louis Braille died in his 40s. He would get the cough, and then he'd go home to Couvray and feel so much better. They should have done more for that building. So when he was at school, Captain Charles Barbier came to speak. He was a captain in the French army, and he told Louis about night writing. And Louis always gave Captain Barbier the credit for inspiring him to figure out about writing with bumps. Captain Barbier had a 12-cell dot, and for those of you, a 12-cell signal, I'll call it. For those of you who don't know, ours is only 6. So it was really hard for the kids who tried out his code to have just their pointer finger covering the dots. And he also didn't do it alphabetically. He did it according to the sounds in French. And there were 36 sounds in French. So they had to read each word phonetically. It was quite tedious. So that wasn't okay with Louis. So he went to work on figuring out a code that would be easier and more universal. And it did take him 3 years before he got to a point where he could say, aha, this is it. So he got there, and the code that he developed was wonderful, but not everybody thought so. It seems that whoever makes whatever they make thinks that theirs is the best. And at his time, there were these embossed books that one of them, just one by itself, weighed 9 pounds. That's how much it took to emboss them. And there were only 12 of them. So if you read all of them, you were done and had no other books to look at. You couldn't write with that. So he was really dissatisfied, but people kept fighting for, oh, no, this is the way we need to do it. So it wasn't until after his death, 2 years after his death, that his Braille code was accepted. And he really died kind of a nobody. It wasn't until later that his body was moved. And of course, now we have all kinds of things to honor him. And very few people don't know who Louis Braille is. So if there's any justice in that, I don't know. But he really was the kind of guy who got a lot of satisfaction from learning and teaching and doing his music. He even invented Braille music. I'm not sure to the extent that we have it today, but he did. So he had a wonderful life. And this code started being accepted in the United States in 1860, so right around the time of the Civil War. So I will repeat what this slide says, that Braille is important. Some people are thinking that it can be replaced with technology, and I strongly disagree with that. I do love technology. I'm not saying anything bad about technology, but Braille is important because it includes reading and writing. So that's what literacy really is, reading and writing, not just reading. And with technology, people get to listen, but they don't get to write. And listening is passive, reading is active. And to really get things into your head, you need to be active. All of this is my opinion. Just going to say in my humble opinion, but all of this is my opinion. And do feel free to ask questions in the chat. And if you have evidence to the contrary and want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about that later too. But so in education, which is, at least the first 18 years of your life, you need to learn to read, to spell, to use punctuation, to do creative writing, to do math. If you're in music, to learn about music. And those things cannot happen without Braille, if you're a Braille user, obviously. On the job, you can use electronic note takers, and they have Braille displays on them, so you need Braille then. And identifying objects and locations, now that the ADA has those Braille symbols next to rooms, nobody would have to make a mistake of going in the men's room when they're a woman or vice versa. And also, if you're in an office building or a doctor's office and you need to find a room number, you need Braille for that. So hooray for Braille, and we're going to learn more about it. So ways to make Braille. So I was talking to David Hyde before, and he's a great advocate of the slate and stylus. And that is just the handiest way to take notes if you are taking short notes. So like a friend that I know has one the size of an index card, and he puts that in his pocket. And if somebody calls him and he needs to write down the phone number, he does that. Or if he's thinking of what he needs on a grocery list, he writes short notes with that. It would, and I think Dave Hyde would agree with me, be tedious to write long papers with the slate and stylus. So therefore, and Louis Braille did use something similar. I don't think it was this kind of a mold at that time, but that's how he figured out the dots. And I forgot to add something really wonderful about that is that he wanted to be able to write letters home. So he figured out a way to do the raised dot alphabet so that his family could read his letters. It's pretty cool. Just an aside. So around comes the Braille writer, which is the still being used today, very much so. And I will have a lot more information about that later. And still later is the Braille embosser, which can be connected to a computer, and then the person entering the information can type into the computer, and with various translation programs, they can translate into Braille. And there are even some Braille embossers now that will print the Braille with the print underneath, which is handy for some teachers who obviously don't know Braille. And then the Braille labeler is good for things like, I didn't mention, but in independent living, to Braille your pills or your cleaning products or your canned soups. This is a real handy way to do that. And of course, another important way to use Braille. Now, on to technology, which truly is wonderful. So the girl in the picture is accessing her computer with her Braille display. And if you haven't seen Braille displays before, they are electronic and they're little metal dots, and they go up and down in ways that you can even find a cursor, because in some of them, I'm not sure about all of them, but in some of them, the cursor will make an up and down movement underneath the Braille cell. A good story about this little refresher Braille in the picture is that the student that I do still see once a week can text me because he has the refresher Braille connected by Bluetooth on his cell phone. So he can text me just by putting the Braille in the refresher Braille and then pressing send, which these, because I have been teaching more than 40 years, these things were not even dreamed of when I went to graduate school. So I am truly in awe. It's incredibly wonderful. So Braille codes. I just finished telling you all about Louis Braille, and he developed the code and how difficult it was for him to get it accepted. And 2016, along come people who want a different code accepted. And I think there might have been maybe just as many fights about it. A lot of people were not happy about changing the code. But there are good reasons for it, which I will show in the next slide. But so Louis Braille's code now is called EBAE, which is English Braille American Edition for us. And the new code is called UEB, which is Unified English Braille. So why? And so many people were asking why when it first came out, because they said, no, we know the code, we know everything about it, don't give us anything new. And so there are a lot of reasons, and they're pretty self-explanatory up here. Now with UEB, it does allow all English-speaking countries to share Braille materials. And with modern technology, back when Louis Braille was around, and even, before computers, nobody needed to Braille a website. And it's very difficult to Braille a website with the plain English Braille. And there are a lot of mathematical formulations, I believe, that have been changed. And the way it's created, and I am definitely not an expert on UEB. So if you have questions on those, you probably have to ask a a transcriber who has been trained in it if you have specific questions. But my understanding is that it allows for changes in the future in a less big way, the change from Louis Braille's Braille to this. We definitely still have the alphabet. Nobody changed that, so don't worry. So we will talk about Braille now. So this is a Braille cell, and it's kind of funny that it's called a cell because you think maybe of a prison cell or, a scientific cell, but you can think that all the dots are enclosed in this one place. So that's why I guess we call it a cell. I have the picture of the clarinetist because he uses his left hand for his first 1, 2, 3 keys and his right hand for his 4, 5, 6 keys. And that's just how it is on the Braille writer. And here is the Braille writer. Some interesting facts about Braille writers: that this Braille writer looks exactly like the one I had in graduate school. It's metal like this. You have to roll in the paper with the very top silver pieces move forward and you roll in the paper. And when I was taught, they said, just like you roll paper in a typewriter. And I bet some people are too young in this audience to even remember about rolling paper into a typewriter. But you do roll the paper in, and so there's that. This Braille writer, when I was in graduate school, cost $125. It's the exact same machine now, and it is loanable. I have information about that later, so don't worry, parents, if you're afraid you have to invest. But it is now, exact same machine, $810. So they just, guess the cost of metal has really gone up. Also interesting is that they have used technology to create a Brailler called the Smart Braille. Or I guess it's just called Smart Braille. And that cost $2,195. And it has a display that shows Sim Braille, which is what's in our upper left-hand corner now, the black dots. It also shows large print, and it's capable, it also speaks, and it's capable of doing many different languages. So yay technology. So that's the Cadillac, and this is the tried and true. So I will show you some of the keys. This is for hands to be put on, index finger on left hand, middle finger, ring finger, then index finger right hand, middle finger left for 4, 5, 6. Then this is the line down. So remember the paper has been rolled in. If you want to go down a line, like you were reading, you want to go next to the next line, that's what you push. This is a space bar, which makes a space between your words, just as if you were typing. And this is the backspace. Nobody will ever make a mistake, so they don't need the backspace. Okay, so we are ready. I think everybody ready to look at the Braille, the first 10 Braille letters. Everybody ready? Any thumbs up? I saw a nod. Okay, thank you. Oh, I forgot the line return. There it is. You push that all the way back to the beginning. So first 10 letters, obviously the first 10 letters of the alphabet, and the little dots on the screen show the entire Braille cell so you can see the positioning. So now would be a good time to kind of glance down at your Papa cell if you have it and realize that the first 10 letters only use the top 2/3 of the cell. They do not use dots 3 and 6 at all. And there are going to be some really good reasons for that later on. So now's a good time to take out your bubble sheets, and I'm going to give you a few words to practice. When you are done practicing, if you would put done in the chat, then I'll know that you finished and I will show you the answers. So here are the words to practice: cab and bag. Okay, so here's cab and here's bag. How'd everybody do? You're not scared, are you?
I've got some thumbs up, some smiles.
Good. Okay, there's a little more practice on the next page. And there's the alphabet for you.
Kayla says 100%. That's great.
Ooh. These are a little longer.
This is longer.
So again, when you're done, put it in the chat, please.
All working. That's fun.
I'll put the answers up.
All right.
Everybody had enough time to check their answers? Yeah. Okay, so then we have 10 more letters to see. And Mr. Braille was pretty creative about consistency. And so what he did to the first 10 letters was he added .3. So you see that K is a A with a .3 at the bottom. And B is in with .3 at the bottom is an L, and so on. So for those of us who are looking with our eyes, if we remember the formations, this is just a little extra help to remember the letters. But remember, there are cheat sheets, so don't worry. So our practice will include these letters, and it will be on the slide. So here you go. All the letters are on the top, and you can Braille mop and poop.
Yes, those are awesome. You can get them at Walmart, Fleet Farm, etc. Smiley face. Those are the best. Papa Cell books.
Oh, I'm learning. I never saw those. So here are the answers. I'll check yours against those. You have some longer words to do for the next one to practice these next 10 letters in the alphabet. Kite and mittens.
Oh,
here are the answers. Everybody doing great? Okay, so we only have 6 more letters. And here they are. So now that's 3 and 6 are added to the original letters. But W is an exception. Can you guess why? Put your guesses in the chat.
that's fun. Dave Hyde, you can't answer. LOL. No guesses in the chat just yet.
Really? Okay. Well, I won't give it too much longer because I do, of course, have the answer. Anybody want to guess? No? Okay. So
Something about a capital letter, maybe?
oh, good guess.
Good guess.
So Louis Braille was French, and the only time in French that W was used was for the name of a foreign city or someone's foreign name. So he added the W to the code later when an English friend of his suggested it. Notice that the W is missing. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Okay, so just 2 words to try with these letters. Wax and fuzzy. And everybody has trouble with the Z, so don't feel bad if you do.
Here we go.
So here are the answers. Go ahead. So now it's kind of cool that we can make numbers still using the first 10 letters of the alphabet, and I will show you those. So remember our A through J. If we put the numeric indicator, which is circled in red, in front of one of these letters, they make a number. So as you see, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Also, we can make capital letters, and that .6 makes the word cat capitalized. I'm just telling you all this so that when you're looking with your eyes at the Braille, you won't be too confused with something like that. Like, what is that dot? Nothing you have to memorize. Again, don't be scared. There is more on the next page. And the next page are punctuation marks. And true confessions here, these are punctuation marks from Louis' Braille code, not from UEB. Actually, UEB does have some indicators before a period, but the period still looks like a period, but the opening and closing quotation marks, I believe, are different. As I say, I'm not an expert, but these are the ones that Louis thought of. And they are all, if you can notice the little dots, they are all lower in the cell. They take up the bottom 2/3 of the cell. So that helps differentiate from the end of the word. And they are written next to the word, so then the fact that they're lower is noticed by the Braille reader. Again, not to worry. Now, here's something else not to worry about. We have things called contractions in Braille, and contractions in English writing are words like don't and can't with the apostrophe T, and they actually make a word a little bit smaller because you leave out one letter and put in the apostrophe. But contractions in Braille make the sentences shorter. And so the contractions do, as it says on here, save space and time, make reading easier. You guys can read, are grouped according to similarities. They can represent whole words or part words or both, and they may use one or more cells. So in order to show you how this works, because just hearing that probably doesn't give you such a good indication of what it might be like, I'm going to show you some of the contractions, not all. So these are called, in UEB terms, alphabetic word signs. So if you look again, these are still just the alphabet, but if they are found alone on a line, they mean a word. And so a lot of this contractions you could kind of think of as shorthand. So you do want to save space, and using D for do doesn't really save too much space, but the word do is used so much that it does make it faster to Braille. Of course, the biggest space saver is knowledge, but I'm not sure how many people use knowledge very much in their conversation. So not crazy helpful, but people, it's kind of a long one. So these are my students called it the but can do list. And usually kids will memorize these. But parents and teachers and paraprofessionals don't have to. They can use their cheat sheets. So I have a little quiz for the people who do know some Braille on this sheet. So obviously this says the chocolates are delicious. And there's an answer to that statement, or a question actually for that statement underneath. So if you know enough Braille to figure out what that says, please put it in the chat. If you don't, I promise I will tell you.
Kari jumped on that. Can I
Ooh.
have more?
And is that what Kari asks when she's presented with chocolate?
She says thumbs up.
Yep, me too. Okay, so the next one is some kids hate asparagus. What is the answer to that?
Jesse Grober, but I like it.
Good job. Okay, and here's a question that's probably asked a lot at test time. Are you done yet? What's the answer?
Jesse Grober, not quite.
Not quite. So for the people who weren't aware of this, isn't that pretty cool that you can have 4 symbols like under the chocolates are delicious, and that says the whole question. And that's what's pretty cool about this code, is that you really can shorten it up and have fun with finding these kinds of things. So now this is a UEB term too. These are called strong contractions. And I have Linus here saying something, who knows what, but it's in shorthand. So I thought that was appropriate because these words do come up a lot, and they are the words and, for, of, the, and with. And again, Louis Braille used some letters of the alphabet with just the addition of .6 to make these very common words. These are used very often. So we have another quiz. So who can tell me what that first line says?
Kari Landis, you and me.
How about the second one?
I expected Maria to jump in. I thought we had Maria in the room too. I'm like,
She's not here though?
I thought so. For the fun of it, Kari says, for the fun of it.
Okay, thank you, Kari. And how about the last one? This one's appropriate for Valentine's Day. And this conference was supposed to be in March, so I would have missed Valentine's Day, but now it's just in time.
Jesse Grober, with love.
There you go. So again, one symbol can mean a whole word, which is pretty cool. Okay, so moving on. We're not learning any more Braille. I hope you haven't been scared by what you found out so far. And now I'm going to show you some resources and some ways to practice. So I've put on this, this slide just a few of the Braille apps that are available for people who read Braille with their eyes to practice. So if you do want to be faster or better at reading with your eyes, do try one of these, or there are many others that came up. I just put these up because it was easy to get the pictures on the slide. Okay, and again, don't have to take notes. This is all on the on the live binder. And here, fun activities at home. Pinterest is just a wonderful source of activities. And this is a very current slide because I learned from Kari this morning that on Instagram, there's a person named Jen Reeder who has I Teach Tactile. And she also has a website by that same name. And she has just a world of ideas. And Legos have even come on board with some Braille there. It's pretty cool. And they even knew that A was number 1. So I haven't seen these in person yet. Have you? Do you guys have it at the school?
Nick says school districts and CSAs can apply for their Lego sets to use in school and with students.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So if you go to the Lego website, or if you search for Lego Braille, if you're a TVI teacher, you can put your information down, and then they'll actually send you free sets.
Oh, wow. Just from the Lego website. Huh? Okay, that you better
Yes,
write
sir.
down because I didn't have that information.
They partnered with APH. And so, yeah, it was on Good Morning America, right? So,
Oh, wow.
yep.
That is awesome.
So we can fulfill those requests at the center too. So you can also go on the APH website, and there's a few different ways to do it. But if you're a TVI in Wisconsin and you know Marilyn Connolly in our outreach center, she's the go-to for that.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so now I will tell you about some resources.
Ooh, and there's someone who said, my son just got the Legos and the Braille is large and not to size or scale. Yep, my son has issues reading it. And that can be the tricky part when you're doing jumbo Braille or having, there's not the regular size Braille, like even on the side of it perhaps, but some of the TVIs I've talked to have actually added a sticky Braille label to the side. So that they can also feel the actual letter to scale.
Oh, good. Important to know. So as you know, because you're lucky enough to be at this conference, the Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired is an incredibly wonderful resource. Pretty much any question you have, they either know the answer or can direct you to the right person. So very valuable. We're so lucky to have them in Wisconsin. And then in Milwaukee, there's a place called Able. And there, it's not as easy to find, and I didn't realize that until this afternoon, unless you know that their website is ablenow.org. So that is a note you can take if you want, ablenow.org. And on their website, it says they even have Braille games, which I took a tour of Able and I didn't know that. So that'd be fun to find out. Then the Braille Library and Transcribing Services are right here in Madison. And I have been to this library. They have many, many books for children there available for loan. Wisconsin Braille is an organization that I'm going to tell you about on the next slide, which is why it's bolded. And then Wisconsin Talking Book and Braille Library, hoping that parents know about that because you can get the talking book machine, which is called the Daisy now, am I right? And lots of books even for preschool.
So Dave Hyde also added to the chat, there are also Braille Uno cards. That's one of the games that's usually available in stores with Braille. I'll add that Band-Aid boxes are one of the only containers if your child is wanting to go to the store and search for something with Braille on it. The Band-Aid box usually does say Band-Aid. And then we did a session actually with the Talking Book and Braille Library that Dave Hyde coordinated. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have a recording of that session. Thanks.
Okay, now I have something that I want to show. So I have to do something here that's going to say speaker view, right? And I'm not seeing it come up. So I'm going to call my husband up and see if he can do it. That should come up. I want to show you some things from Wisconsin Braille. Maybe if I put stop share. The Wisconsin Braille is an organization just here that its main purpose is to provide free Braille books to families, free. We do ask if you would to give a $10 membership fee for the whole year, but you can have as many Braille books as you'd like. And so I wanted to show you the quality of the books. They are made by the Oshkosh Correctional Center. I don't know how to get it. So this is one of them. It's called One Day. This is the actual book that you would get if you went to the bookstore. And on the book, I know it's not, maybe you can see it better. They have, I don't know if you can see, but there's Braille over here. So it's a wonderful Braille sheet, clear sheet, excuse me, that's Brailled on. And the transcribers at the Oshkosh Correctional Center do just a beautiful job so that parents can read these to their children. The print is very, very visible. And then the children can also go over the Braille with their fingers. So please, please take advantage. This is another one. It's a really, really cute book. I happen to be on the book selection committee, so I'm proud of the ones that are chosen. And again, really, you probably can't even see where the Braille is. So that it's just great for parents, grandparents, teachers, everybody. And these books are free. We send out a list once a year, and we ask that you tell everybody you know about it. This is the last one that I brought to show. And again, just beautiful, beautiful books. I'm going to say it one more time, free.
And Cindy, I was never turned down as a TVI when I asked for the same book at school to be also at home for the parents.
Right. Yep.
So that was really helpful. And Jesse Grober added Seedlings also gives 3 books a year to blind students and to teachers of the blind and visually impaired as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have Seedlings on another list, so we're good. So now I need to get back to the presentation. So I just go to share screen again. Okay, and then it's not moving.
Just click on that there. No, well.
Okay, so this is the mission of Wisconsin Braille. And the membership fee, thank you. And the membership fee is just $10. We are working on our website. It has been significantly updated, and we are going to have a page with activities too for pre-Braille and Braille. So do check our website, which is on the left-hand corner there. Okay. Then here are some of the national resources, and Seedlings is on there. And I appreciate the additional information about the free books from them, the Library Service, National Braille Press, all of these, the American Action Fund, American Printing House, Bookshare. There are many others, but these are a really good start. And then the Braille Writers for Loan. This is how your child would qualify to get one on loan. And here are the people, 2 of whom are right here with us, who can help make that happen. And then more resources, learning more. There's the Hadley School. And I specifically saw, there's much on their website worth seeing, but since this is a preschool conference, I saw that there's a family education program with courses for sighted family members, including Braille, independent living, and advocating for blind and visually impaired children. So that's a wonderful resource. The National Federation for the Blind, on their website, says that they have a Reading Pals Club, and they have Early Explorers. I guess you'd have to look further to find out what that is. I do not know. And Santa letters. And one of the people I met with this morning said that she did use that service for her students and her student, and he was thrilled. And then, of course, the American Printing House, this is the second mention of the American Printing House, because now, I think probably because of the virtual change to virtual, they have free lessons for students with varying abilities, and it's called the Virtual Excel Academy. So if you want to check that out, I actually have tuned into some of those to see what they are like, and they do seem to be very high quality.
And Cindy, I can add, they've just added something called The Hive, which is a learning platform for not only vision professionals, but families as well. And they're continually adding free training and webinars.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and knowing now that you're not at all scared of Braille, there's some more books that if you want to own something to refer back to. These are just a few of the ones that are available. And then just some more websites to make sure that you have them. Path to Literacy has a very big presence on Pinterest and show a lot of activities, and also Perkins, Wonder Baby, Texas School for the Blind, and of course our most important is Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So
we have a great question from Jamie Kirsten that fits right with what the place you're at. And she says,
sure.
At what age do you start introducing Braille to children?
Well, I have an opinion on that, and anybody else who wants to, feel free. But I think that when kids can sit up, well, maybe not even sit up, just because we read to kids, really, really tiny kids, and they get to see the letters all the time. So if we just move the blind child or visually impaired child's fingers over the dots, I don't think that any time is too soon. Dawn, you're an expert on this too. Would you agree with me on that?
100%. I came from birth to 3 and loved it before I became a teacher of the blind. And there's no limit on when children start seeing print. The world is cited in print, and words and literacy are all around, and Braille is that literacy.
Any other questions? I really appreciate you coming, and I hope that you found this valuable and that you will refer back to use some of the references.
Kelsey shares, The Hive is a great resource, a great training resource. Thanks, Kelsey. Jamie Kirsten says, thanks. Great. That's what I was thinking. Thank you so much.
Good.
And we've got some thank yous starting to roll in. I'll see if we've got any more monitor for you.
Dawn, do you mind if I just mention a quick comment about scribbling? I think it's just as important to put the kids with a Braille writer so they can scribble and just create the dots and feel what they're creating, just like kids do with crayons and markers, usually around age 2, sometimes before, sometimes after.
Absolutely. That's 100.